Welcome back. This is Pam with Perfectly Holistic, and I am so excited to bring to you guys a very special guest all the way from Chile. Dr. Christian Vergara, I heard about you from my friend Dr. Amaya Espindola, and she said you did like this amazing presentation on glyphosate at the recent Raw Food Dog Feeding Summit. Did I get that right? And and I'm like, glyphosate, really? You have a friend that talks about glyphosate? Because I've been searching for someone for so long to do a presentation because this is such a critical issue. And sadly, people in society still don't even know what glyphosate is. They have never heard of it. And I really am shocked at this day and age that people don't know what that is. So that tells you what a good job the other side has done to cover it up. So tell us, just give us a brief intro, who you are, what you do, how, what brought you onto this journey.
Well, thank you for the invitation, Pam. Well, I'm just an ordinary veterinary here in South America, and I just started to teach to my other colleagues about nutrition, especially raw nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
I believe the whole world was shocked when this show, this Netflix about with my colleague Karen Becker, and Rodney, they did the Petful with my dear friend Barbara Royal.
Yeah.
So they people started to questions about the food they give to their pets. Um, okay, I started all the thing with the raw food, the nutrition, and what is good, what is bad. But um, like we were talking before, it's not the carbohydrate things, it's a lot of stuff. And then I started to investigate about glyphosate and heterocyclic amines and other stuff. And and just like you said, people don't know what is glyphosate, and they most people know about glyphosate that only interact with plants, and okay, because plants use another route that mammals don't.
Mm-hmm.
But people don't know that bacteria, our microbiome, use the very same route that plants do, or in order to get energy. So this is what I am going to show you now, in order to for you in very good ways and short ways, in a practical way, to understand something very difficult, because there are a lot of chemical reactions here. And I'm sorry if I sometimes I get like a brain freeze, because it's not my original language, so I try to find the right words to connect all the phrases in order to for you to understand me.
Right. Thank you so much. Because I understand Spanish, but I know not all of our audience does. So I appreciate that because when I have to speak Spanish, I used to have to slow down and think the words. Yeah, I totally get it. So
Yeah.
lots of
So
grace shown to you today for sure.
there are, and there's a lot of stuff that for me to write understand in English, because I translate into Spanish the book of Conor Brady, Feeding Dogs. I translated the
Mhm.
book into Spanish.
Nice.
Um, I was the president of the Raw Feeding Veterinary Society, and I am a director here in Chile of a company that produce raw food for dogs and cats. And now I'm going to travel to Europe again to meet one of my colleagues, that is Brendan Clark. He is running a big thing about, um, what would you say, Hmm, to give some indications, so for the companies to create good raw food, because everybody are worried about bacteria, and that the homemade raw food are not balanced, and everybody is worried about balance, and there is not such a thing as a balanced food for a day. The balance, you get the balance in the time, just like we, you know just like us. So,
Mhm.
but there is another subject. So let's start, in order to save time, to
Yeah.
talk about glyphosate. Okay, I'm going to share a screen. So you
Okay.
tell me if
I
you
am. Yeah. Okay. I have the
do.
screen. There you go.
Yeah. Okay.
Perfect.
Do you see the good screen?
Yeah, I see the big
Okay,
screen.
perfect.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay, so we all know that I'm talking about corn now. So
Mhm.
we all know that corn is the main ingredient used in the production of pet food. We all know that. But it's not the sweet corn,
Mhm.
because we love sweet corn. I love sweet corn here in South America. We love sweet corn, with mayonnaise or with butter, melted butter, etc. But the reality is that the corn used in this case in pet food is not sweet corn, and the corn that the industry use in pet food is dent corn, and dent corn has a high starch content.
Mhm.
So I need to talk about this before talking glyphosate, because people are, or farmers, in order to prevent the losses of corn, they need a thing to prevent that, and
Mhm.
that is glyphosate. So, for example, here we have the second ingredient is chicken.
Mhm.
Yeah, chicken.
Right.
But the thing that crops can be directly affected by insects, that feed on the plants, causing great economic losses for the producer.
Mhm.
So weeds can compete for soil nutrients, causing a decrease in the quality of the crop production. So they need a way to stop this, and so it was necessary to look for ways to avoid this outcome for the farmer. So let's think this. If we use insecticide, for example, we can affect other kind of beneficial insects,
Mhm.
and even we can contaminate the crops. If we use herbicides to control weeds, we could destroy the crops. So like ancient people did before, pulling wheat, manually. And some people are still using this method. It's the best way, but it would take a lifetime for the farmers that have a big space, a big thousands of acres
Yeah.
of corn. So the answer to avoid this and save money and time was the chemistry and genetic engineering.
Mhm.
So, for example, in, in 1996, a transgenic corn was created. This corn produced a protein that is toxic for the caterpillar, the caterpillar Ostrea nubilalis. And the common name of this caterpillar is the corn border. So, in a few words, when the caterpillar feeds on this new type of corn, it dies. It
Mm.
dies because this protein destroys its intestinal epithelium. So, unfortunately, today these caterpillars are gaining resistance to this protein. So, genetic engineering was gaining space in this because farmers and the overcrowded, we are in an overcrowded world, so we need to take care of the food. So, we don't have time for lose food for insects or even weeds. So
Mhm.
in 1974, glyphosate was created to control weed, and it was baptized as from that. This is was created, in order to avoid, the manually taking off the weeds from the soil. So
Mhm.
the action of the glyphosate is to inhibit a pathway that plants use to synthesize amino acids. And the name of this pathway is the shikimate pathway.
Mm.
So let's see how this herbicide was used back in the days, because it was another use for the glyphosate. Because glyphosate was used before planting. Okay, before planting, they use glyphosate, and the mission of the glyphosate is to leave the soil free of residues,
Mm.
like weed, for
Mm.
example. So
Mhm.
this was very effective to keep the moisture of the land, avoiding the overturn of the soil. So they started only to use glyphosate in the plantations in cornfield, for example. So, but now glyphosate is used in houses, school. We are using glyphosate everywhere,
Mm-hmm.
everywhere. So in 1998, Roundup Ready corn was created. It is a special corn that tolerates glyphosate. And how scientists discovered that? Because they discovered that a bacteria in the soil was so resistant to glyphosate. Agricobacter, it's the name. So, how? What about if I take this bacteria, I analyze this bacteria, I learn how this bacteria is resistant to glyphosate, and put that DNA, for example, of the bacteria, how the mechanism of resistance, I can put it in the crops. So Roundup Ready corn was created. So this corn tolerates glyphosate, allowing its used several times and only affects weeds. So tolerate means that the plant can absorb glyphosate,
Mm-hmm.
and the glyphosate stay inside the corn. So what would imply this? For example, if I take a group of corn kernels and I use it to prepare tortilla, because this kind of corn is used to the production of tortilla or the kibble, you
Mm-hmm.
know, me or some dogs will be eating glyphosate,
Yep.
a tons of glyphosate. And let's talk about a dog that is 5 years old and he's only eating the same kibble for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And this kibble is made of corn. So this dog is eating glyphosate for 5 years, twice a day.
Yep.
So like between 2,000 days in a row eating glyphosate. So it is important to know that plants use the shikimate pathway to synthesize tryptophan, phenylalanine, and tyrosine.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, in South America, there are plants that are becoming resistant to glyphosate. Okay, so what we must know that mammals, such as you, me, dogs, Don Gordo, fat, that's my cat,
Yeah.
we don't use the shikimate pathway. So glyphosate will not affect my production, your production, Gordo's production of tryptophan, phenylalanine, or tyrosine,
Mm-hmm.
because we use other types of biochemical reactions. However, there are three reasons that are a big concern about this herbicide. Prolonged exposure of glyphosate in humans is associated with cancer, and there are more than 10,000 lawsuits worldwide against this compound. By the way, it was created by Monsanto. Today, the patent is held by Bayer. And you must know that Monsanto had to pay $289 million of dollars to a gardener named Dwayne Johnson in USA, I believe in California, for suffering terminal cancer due to glyphosate. The other aspect is the contamination produced by this herbicide in the environment. So rain washes the glyphosate into the groundwater, contaminating the water and affecting the aquatic fauna. So
Mm-hmm.
fishes are dying, fishes are having kidney disease and neurological diseases, neurological problems, neurological disorders for glyphosate. So this chronic exposure to glyphosate causes a lot of issues to fishes. So what we thought we use to control weed is affecting the whole surroundings, not only the weed that we needed to eradicate because we need good and healthy crops, but we are killing the aquatic fauna and even that water, we are drinking that water with glyphosate.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds crazy, but in Argentina, rains glyphosate. It's raining glyphosate
Oh wow.
because yeah, because it's and I believe that every country that uses glyphosate rains glyphosate. So it rains glyphosate in every country that uses herbicide, but because it goes up with to the atmosphere with the wind.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So one of the most important thing about glyphosate in humans and in part in dogs because we can uh, step aside about corn, but water is so important because groundwater is most of the time rich in minerals like calcium, for example, or metals. So that's why we call it hard water. So when the soil absorbs glyphosate, this glyphosate interact with the groundwater
Mm-hmm.
and it binds to the natural occurring metals like iron or calcium. And this binding forms complexes that cause kidney glomerular necrosis.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, in countries where it's not an adequate regulation of the use of the herbicides, there is an epidemic of chronic kidney disease. For example, in Sri Lanka, Guatemala, Salvador, and this is one of the reasons why glyphosate is banned in, is so prohibited in some countries in the world. Even Europe is fighting, and glyphosate, we need glyphosate. No, we don't, etc. And I believe it's going to start a fight about the using of glyphosate. And some people say, okay, but okay, let's stop that because groundwater it's full of minerals, full of calcium, full of cadmium, even arsenic.
Yep.
And these metals, these compounds can affect the kidneys. Yeah. So what about if it is not the glyphosate, it's only the water that is affecting the kidney of the people? Yeah, okay. It's a good theory, but it was interesting this study because there is an epidemic of chronic kidney disease in Sri Lanka,
Mm-hmm.
and there is, for example, 10 towns that drink the same water, the same groundwater, and only nine towns of the 10 has chronic kidney disease.
Ah.
But what about the only one who is not suffering that kind of chronic disease? Because that town is kind of conflictive people. They have conflictive people, revolutionary people that was stealing the fertilizer to create bombs.
Ah.
So they don't use glyphosate
No.
to not give him more weapons for the revolutionary people. So
Oh.
that's why they don't have chronic disease because they don't use glyphosate, and they drink the same water.
Yes.
So
Yes.
it's more important to know. So glyphosate is doing something.
Yes.
It's and it's doing a lot of things. For example, um, we can see another interactions with the glyphosate. Glyphosate stimulate the grow up of mycotoxins, even in food. If we have glyphosate in the food, and if this food is contaminated with mycotoxins, the mycotoxin will rise up and the vitamin D will go down in the body. So we are giving more tools to the body to create cancer. We are giving more tools to the body um, to give to the body a malfunction of the kidney. So
Yes.
there is a lot of things that we must know that glyphosate is doing a lot of harm to us because today we find glyphosate in our drinking water and our wine and our beer in breakfast cereals among others. So we are eating glyphosate and
Mm.
we have to live with that. And I believe in every country that use glyphosate, it's raining glyphosate. So if I'm getting wet of the rain, maybe some particles of glyphosate it's entering into my skin.
Yes.
So what about pets? This is important thing, What about pets? In what way glyphosate can affect cats and dogs? So what do we know about glyphosate in the lives of our pets? Like I said before, our environment is so contaminated that today there are already acceptable doses for the consumption of glyphosate.
Mm.
For example, a dog consumes between 4 to 12 times more glyphosate than a human. So here we have the number. For example, acceptable doses for a 30 kilos person is 3,900. parts per billion, but a dog of 30 kilos is eating between 17,000 and more than 100,000 parts per billion a day. So, and a cat consumes twice as much glyphosate as a dog. So maybe there is a connection why, leaving aside the dehydration and excess of carbohydrates, but glyphosate, it's participating in the epidemic of chronic disease in the kidneys in dogs and cats, by the way.
I agree.
So here we have the effect of glyphosate at the actual permitted levels. For example, drinking in a chronical way 700 parts per billion of glyphosate in water, it's demonstrated that produces alteration in the kidney.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
700 parts per billion. But we are drinking thousands every day.
Mm-hmm.
And let's say our dog, our 5-year-old dog that is eating glyphosate in its kibble. So there are a couple of studies where it indicates the concentration of glyphosate in dog kibble. So you can see some well-known brands are equal contaminated with glyphosate. So I would say, okay, if the kibble is made of corn, 100% glyphosate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's hard to find. Even, or maybe, oh no, but if you use organic corn, yeah, maybe it's free of glyphosate. But we have a lot of issues about glyphosate. Like I said before, we have, heteroscyclic acrylamide, you know, etc. Um, One of the most contaminated food for pets are the vegan food,
Oh,
kibble, vegan food, because it's only vegetables and
soy.
and legumes, etc. So it's soy, wheat, cotton, and corn are 99% of transgenic. So it is, and if it is transgenic, it's almost acceptable, or uh, it's common to link transgenic with glyphosate.
Mm-hmm.
So here we can see the average level of glyphosate found in cereal for human consumption, and in the dark blue, we see the levels of glyphosate in dog kibble. So that line, red or brown line, is a reference for measuring the levels in human food. So
Mm-hmm.
if we see, for example, Purina chow, it has way more glyphosate, than average glyphosate consumption for a human.
Yeah, a lot more.
There's a lot. So it's not only, carbohydrates. It's not ultra processed food. It's not kibble. I think it's glyphosate, aflatoxins, that is mycotoxins,
Mm-hmm.
heterocyclic amines, because all these all these products are linked to cancer.
Mm-hmm.
So even some researchers are saying, okay, the etiology of cancer must be revisited, because all the things that we are finding in the pet food. But it's not like, oh, I'm a bad boy, so I'm going to put this aflatoxin, this glyphosate in the kibble. No, no. There are some products formed with the temperatures that create
Yeah.
kibble. Nah,
Mm-hmm.
it's not something that the industry put into the kibble because they are bad people. No, no. It's the chemical reactions, Maillard reactions.
Mm-hmm.
Maillard reaction forms when you put high temperatures between sugars and proteins, and
Yeah.
that thing forms and interacts with the body, altering the DNA, disrupting our hormones, and most are linked with prostate cancer, colon cancer, and breast cancer, and even in our animals. So A dog is exposed to glyphosate for between 4 and 40 times more than a human, and a cat is exposed to glyphosate between 6 and 66 times more than a human. And this we can reflect it in the levels of glyphosate found in the urine of dogs. So if we compare the average glyphosate levels in a dog, it's almost 24,000% more than a
Oh,
farmer. So
wow.
and then we ask, why my dog is suffering with the kidney disease? It's
Yep.
genetic. Yeah, okay, 5% genetic, but okay, there is um, maybe a bad nutrition because it's not good for not a living being must eat the very same thing every day in their
Yep.
lives. It's not
Exactly.
good. So, however, despite the evidence, 2 years ago, Environmental Protection Agency reauthorized the use of glyphosate.
Ugh.
A couple of months ago, in June, the federal court ordered this organization to re-examine its studies because, A, I'm not a scientist, but I know that glyphosate create some problems. So please leave money aside and tell the truth.
Mhm.
So unfortunately, however, there is another effect of glyphosate on mammals that we discovered not long ago. So, okay, glyphosate disrupt hormones. Glyphosate is linked with cancer.
Mhm.
Glyphosate is linked with chronic kidney disease. Okay, there's something else? Yeah, and this is the worst because I dedicate my studies to microbiome. So
Mhm.
many bacteria use the chicken meat pathway to synthesize amino acids.
Yep.
54% of human gut microbiota is sensitive to glyphosate.
Mhm.
54%. So, and dogs have a gut microbiota so similar to us. It's so similar to us because practically we invented the dog. The dog, the wolf started to be near with us 15, 20,000 years ago. So the dogs formed with the food we gave them. So the microbiota adapted to this new kind of food that we're giving to their dogs, and we're living with their dogs. Most people sleep with their dogs. So we are sharing bacteria and we're
Mhm.
sharing the microbiome. So it's this glyphosate, it also alters the gut microbiota of honeybees,
Mm.
causing susceptibility to disease. In fact, thousands of bees that die in Canada was caused by glyphosate, according with some researchers. Okay, but let's see something even darker.
Oh no.
This is I gave a lecture of the relation between tryptophan
Mhm.
and glyphosate in a seminary in Qatar. So this is a piece from a talk. Okay, don't get mad, but this is so big. This is only one screen that I'm going to explain in a practical way. Okay, 95% of tryptophan is metabolized through a pathway called the kynurenine pathway. So this pathway has two ways. The normal way, or known as TDO pathway, and the
Mhm.
other, when there is inflammation, the tryptophan took the IDO1 and IDO2 pathway. This IDO pathway is a defense mechanism that the body has to completely eliminate tryptophan from the system. So, for example, if we have a cat, or if we are sick, or my dog is, for example, with toxoplasmosis, the body eradicate tryptophan from the body because toxoplasma need tryptophan in order to live.
Mm.
So if the body depletes tryptophan, toxoplasma dies.
Mhm.
So this is only a mechanism, but okay, my body is happy because it eradicates the toxoplasma, but tryptophan is essential for a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
So this kynurenine pathway has a final product that it's called kynureninic acid, and this kynureninic acid is a neuromodulator. However, when the other pathway, IDO, is activated, it forms kynolinic acid, and this kynolinic acid is a neurotoxic, and it's involved in several neurological pathologies. So if I have a dog or a cat with a chronic inflammation and the tryptophan and special neurons start with the IDO pathway. This IDO pathway eradicates tryptophan. So if we have a dog with a chronic inflammation, the tryptophan is depleting, and we're having a dog with neurological issues, behavior issues, and if this inflammation is not corrected, I will do it doesn't work. It will not work giving more tryptophan to the dog because inflammation is are still occurring. In the if the inflammation is still occurring, the tryptophan it is still disappearing. So that's why some people that try to give tryptophan for some dogs with um, behavior issues, it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't work because the inflammation is depleting all the tryptophan, and if you give more tryptophan, you are producing more canolinic acid. More canolinic acid, more neurological problems.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important to understand to try to find a summary for a brief case for the tryptophan and the canolinic acid in order to understand the whole reaction is so difficult. But the only thing that you need to know that the cannabinic acid it's only work and the IDO pathway it's transformed by most of the nervous system cells, for example, neurons, astrocytes, and that is why it linked the problem with tryptophan, depleting of tryptophan, chronic inflammation, cannabinic pathway, with the neurological problems. Huntington disease, Alzheimer, schizophrenia are linked with the kynurenine pathway. So it's only, and so if we are giving glyphosate to our dog, so what happened? Glyphosate are, will be affect our microbiota, or my dog microbiota, or my cat microbiota will be affected. It
Mm-hmm.
will not synthesize tryptophan. If we don't have tryptophan, we're going to have a lot of issues. So the macrophage, that is the immune system, will create more inflammation because this glyphosate is altering the microbiota, and the intestine knows when the microbiota is disappearing because there is a highway that connect the intestine with the brain that is called the vagus nerve. So that's the relation between the gut-brain axis. So the brain understands, the brain knows what something is happening, so it sends the cavalry, the military. So
Yes.
and what is the only thing the immune system do? Inflammation.
Mm-hmm.
Inflammation. This is the very first question answer response of the immune system. So we have chronic inflammation. We are disappearing our bacteria, and most bacteria, gram-negative bacteria, are so resistant to die, so they will find more free space. If they have more free space, they are going to multiplicate. More
Mm-hmm.
multiplication of these gram-negative bacteria, more lipopolysaccharide forms of this bacteria. More lipopolysaccharide will call more immune system, and maybe it could destroy the intestinal epithelium. So if we have the intestine and we have some breaches, in some holes in this intestine, these lipopolysaccharides can go through the blood stream, and this lipopolysaccharide can cross the hematocephalic barrier and can go into the brain, and more inflammation plus the glyphosate stuff, so more neurological issues. So
Mm-hmm.
there, there's I could talk with you with this for hours and hours and hours. So if we deplete Tryptophan, okay, but don't forget that if we don't have tryptophan, we can produce serotonin, and we don't have serotonin, we cannot produce melatonin. So without melatonin, we are problem with the sleep, problem with the mood, and the brain is going to be dry without these essential hormones for the our system. So there are a lot of things that are implicated with glyphosate. Um, so if you want to know more about glyphosate, try to understand the relation between glyphosate and tryptophan. Go the relationship between glyphosate and aflatoxins. If you don't know what aflatoxins is, aflatoxins are or more the common name is mycotoxins. And mycotoxins are toxins from the fungus.
Mm-hmm.
And 100% of kibble created by carbohydrates are contaminated with aflatoxins here
Mm-hmm.
in South America. So, um, and last year, there was some 100 pets that died because of the sport mix in USA.
Mm-hmm.
Then dogs die because of hepatitis because their sport mix was contaminated with aflatoxins. So if we had mycotoxins, glyphosate, acrylamide, um, dysbiosis, that it's the alteration, the disrupt of the microbiota. If we have heterocyclic amines, if we high starch food, it means high sugar.
Yes.
So put that in a bag and try to find, oh, okay, but what my 6-year-old dog is so sick, if I give him the best food that I can or the best care that I can do for him, but because we don't know. Oh, a couple of years, I didn't even know. But now we understand the relationship why dogs have more cancer than us.
Mm-hmm.
It is not about the high tons of carbohydrate. I believe this is the issue. Glyphosate and the reaction, the Maillard reaction, and the mycotoxins. These
Yeah.
are the three main stuff. So, like I said before, I could talk with you hours and hours and hours. So that was one of the part of my presentation that I gave to Europe, and about the findings or the stuff that create glyphosate in our body, in the body of our pets.
So, unfortunately, until we remove the dry processed food, people are still going to be feeding acrylamides and having Maillard reaction food and exposure to glyphosate and acrylamides and mycotoxin exposure and all of that. So we need to change our mindset on how our pets eat.
Uh, but being realistic, it would be so utopic,
I
to
know.
eradicate that kind of food with. But I mean, there are some kind of things that we can do. For example, my broke is rotten habit, trying to find some uh,
Yeah.
some mixes with vegetables, that can that they can bind the
Yeah.
aflatoxin, for example, cilantro and
Mhm.
other stuff. But I believe, because in my position as a veterinary, I have to be in the position and of every pet owner, because I know that everybody would like to give natural food to their pets.
Yeah.
But today, everything is so expensive. So some people cannot give natural food for their pets. So
Mhm.
what can I do if I don't have money, but I love my dog? And now I understand that I killing my dog with this food, but I can afford more food.
Yeah.
What can I do? So, and this is in my position. Okay, we can find some antioxidants. So, okay, biggies, vitamins, vitamin C, vitamin D, vitamin E. This is
Mhm.
omega 3. No one take cares more, worry about omega 3 10 years ago.
Yep.
Now, oh, omega 3, it's the most important thing. Thank you. Thank
Yes.
you. Thank you.
Yes.
But
Every day.
now there's a lot of things, because most people think, oh, no, I have chia. Oh, chia is full of omega 3. No, it's not the omega 3 that is work for carnivores. No. Okay.
Yeah.
These kind of things. it's that we in the raw feeding veterinary society, or me as a veterinary, try to educate people for the minimal things. I feel well if someone understands, okay, at least I can give to my pet omega-3.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big step. It's a big step. So let's hope that the things that you do as well to show people how to um, improve the ways of healing. Not even food, the environment is so important. We get nothing if we feed well our pet if he is living in a bad environment. So everything is linked here. So
Yeah.
that's the things that we need to do in order to. It's not a fight with the industry. No, no. It's not a revolution because we are doing this because the industry is not giving another answer.
Mm-hmm.
If we are looking for natural way and the industry is not giving us natural food for our pets, okay, it's time for us to create it. So, and this is why now the raw food is linked with diseases and death. Okay, we have most death and diseases are created by very same industry. So, why don't you see the real picture here? We are worried about our pets. It's not a ego fight. It's not a oh, I have to be holistic. No, I have to be more. Um, uh, actualizado. My brain
Proactive.
is not free. I have to
Proactive.
be
Proactive. We have to be
no,
proactive.
no,
Realistic.
in a new era. I have to be
Mm-hmm.
more. No, you have to be more processed food is more secure than giving raw food because raw food is so contaminated. Yeah, but this your new food it's more contaminated than the thing that we are giving to our dogs and cats, and this is some people don't understand. But this is not the main fight. Well, like I said before, I'm worried about the health of my pets and my clients, and of course the pets of my clients. And if I have the opportunity to even show or even educate about the benefits of omega-3 or turmeric or spirulina or mushrooms, etc.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with that. It is a start. It's a start.
It is a start. And I know that Roddy and Karen have been huge proponents of adding some fresh food to the bowl. You don't have to change the whole bowl, but even changing 20% of that bowl and adding fresh whole foods, low glycemic vegetables, things that fight cancer like broccoli sprouts and things like that that are and omega 3s and things. There's just so much we can do to add some extra benefits to that bowl, even if it's not 100% fresh food or raw food or whatever it is, because you're right. We live in a society where things have gone extremely expensive, and it's unfortunate that to eat something really healthy, it costs more than eating something
Mm,
processed and unhealthy. You know,
indeed.
there's got to be a conspiracy there somewhere. Um, but yeah, so or do you have any other like recommendations or specific foods besides the omegas and the antioxidants? Are there specific foods or things like that that you like to use or add?
Mm, fermented foods, always. Always. Sauerkraut, yogurt, kefir, always.
Mm-hmm.
Always. Because and I recommend the use of the three, because sauerkraut we have Lactobacillus plantarum, and Lactobacillus plantarum it works for lowering cholesterol because it destroys the biliary acid. So the this root that take the biliary acid, it's when it works in the intestine, it came back to the liver. So this bacteria destroy the biliary acid, and the liver is waiting. Okay, where's my biliary acid? Okay, I lost it. So the liver use more cholesterol to create more biliary acid. So that's why this Lactobacillus plantarum works for lowering cholesterol. And interesting, this little lactobacillus stimulate some enteroendocrine cells of the intestine to create serotonin. So it's so important that that fermented food. Kefir, we have Lactobacillus acidophilus. Everybody knows Lactobacillus acidophilus. In commercial yogurt from the supermarket, we have Lactobacillus bulgaricus, and they use glucose to create short-chain fatty acids, and short-chain fatty acids, for example, like butyrate or acetate, it's fuel for the colonocytes. And if we have fuel for the cells of the colon will produce more mucus. And if the colon is producing more mucus, the bacteria are more far from the epithelium. So if the bacteria are far from the epithelium, the immune system will take a look. We're okay. So no inflammation. So
Right.
this is why important, to create equilibrium between bacteria and the food for the bacteria, and we call it prebiotics. And we can find some symbiotics. Symbiotics is the mix, is the join between probiotics and prebiotics, but it's not a good thing to give every single day the very same bacteria, because most bacteria need another one to process some food. Because, for example, okay, I have some lactobacillus that process this kind of sugar, and this lactobacillus that process this kind of sugar eliminates some other type of sugar, and there is another bacteria that can use that type of sugar, and the production or the use this kind of type of sugar, it will produce other type of sugar. Another bacteria from far away, oh, I can use that. Boom.
Yeah.
So more
It's
production, more. Yeah. So if we have more bacteria will use more sugar. So what kind of or proteins, etc. But if we have dysbiosis, so what would happen with all these particles that will be they will be floating in the colon, and we are losing in the feces. So we are losing nutrients, very good nutrients in the feces, because we have nothing, our dogs or our cats or we have not the right bacteria to process it. For example, antioxidants are processed by bacteria. When the tannins of the wine, for example, oh, I can drink a wine because it's good for the health. Yeah, it's good, but the bacteria are the main reason, because they synthesize, they grab that tannins, that antioxidants from the wine, and they transform it for into polyphenols that the intestine can absorb. So it's not good to relate the microbiota only with the immune system. We need to link our microbiota, because our microbiota produce the 10% of our energy daily. Daily energy is 10% created by the microbiota. So, and not for us, for the brain, for the liver. So we need to take care of the colon. We need to take care of our microbiota, and we need to take care about our dogs or cat microbiota. And maybe one big part of the diseases would be off if we take care of the microbiota.
absolutely. I tell people all the time, if you don't have a healthy gut, your microbiome, you don't have health. I mean,
Indeed, yeah.
it affects everything. So
Yep,
start with the gut, heal the gut, heal the body. You know.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah. Well, this has been fascinating. We so appreciate your expertise on this subject. It's such an important aspect of the overall picture of what our pets are exposed to and what affects their health. In the, like you said, it's not the things that we can see, it's the things we can't see. It's the metabolic reactions when cooking happens. It's the things that come like microscopic in the food that we can't see. So it's hard for pet parents to navigate all that, because number one, they're not aware, and number two, they can't see it. They don't know.
And everything, it's like a chain reaction, because okay, we started to talking about glyphosate and kidney disease, but glyphosate is linked with the microbiota, and microbiota is linked with a lot of things. So it's a friend. It's like a snowball. So that's why everything is related here.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, thank you so much. And where can people find you if they want to follow you or, learn more? Do you have any
You
websites or?
can give my Instagram is doctor, like with a G,
Okay.
doctor backslash Vergara. And that's my Instagram, and I always publish some notes in always in Spanish, right? In easy words to understand how the organs works, for example, or this diseases works,
Yeah.
pancreatitis or hepatitis. My main subject, microbiome.
Yeah.
So you can visit my Instagram and to take a look into my post.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I posted it down here. I hope I got that right, but I'm sure they can find it. So thank you so much for your time. We truly appreciate your expertise and for taking the time
Thank
to
you.
educate our
Thank you
followers.
for the invitation and happy to help. And
Yeah.
so
So we'll have to.
everything you need, you have my email, so you can write me again. I
Awesome.
happily can help you.
Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank
We'll
you.
okay.
Talk
Thanks,
to you
guys.
soon.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.